Hello everybody, welcome to another video lesson. This is Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH, and we will be discussing accounting for merchandising operations. So in the previous lesson, we're done with the whole accounting process for a service company, and now we will be focusing our discussion in merchandising. And specifically for today, we will be discussing sales and purchases. Okay, let's start. Merchandising operations. So merchandising is a business activity of buying and selling of goods. So we don't give services here, or we don't do the goods that we are selling. It's just that we will be selling goods pero bibilin muna natin siya bago maibenta. Kasi wala naman tayong maibebenta kundi tayo bibili muna. Parang ganon. So parang madaling sabihin that merchandising operations is a sari-sari store. It's like that, diba? Your mommy will buy first the things that are needed in your sari-sari store, then tutubuan nyo ng konti, then dun kayo kumikita. Ganun siya. Okay? The goods that a merchandising company sells to its customers are called merchandise inventory or simply inventory. Okay? So, yung tawag natin dun sa stocks na ilalagay nyo sa sari-sari store. Okay? Formally, in accounting, we call it inventory or merchandise inventory. Okay, so it is a company resource na ginagamit natin para kumita, and because it is a company resource, it is an asset. And it is reported in the financial statements as a current asset. Okay, so the definition of current versus non-current asset will be discussed with you in Fundamentals of ABM Part 2. For now, you can imagine the balance sheet and makikita mo doon yung asset. Ang tawag sa kanya ay inventory. Okay, so you see the picture there. Yan, yung mga nagtitinda ng products, no? Ang tawag natin doon merchandising. Okay, that's it. So we have many examples of merchandising operations. Meron tayong grocery, meron tayong department store, yung mga official merchandise, online, meron din tayong appliance centers. So, when your company is buying goods before you sell those goods, then that's what you call a merchandising operation. Okay? So, in discussion of merchandising operations, hindi pwedeng hindi nating i-discuss kung ano po ba ang operating cycle. The operating cycle of a merchandising entity goes like this. Siyempre, the company has cash. In order for them to sell something, siyempre bibilin muna nila, di ba? So nagkakaroon ng tinatawag nating purchase transaction. Now, kapag ka nagkaroon ng purchase transaction, eto na, congratulations! You already have merchandise inventory. Yung merchandise inventory na yan yung goods na ibebenta mo. E di syempre, ibebenta mo siya usually on account. So, nagkakaroon naman ng tinatawag nating sales transaction. After ng sales transaction, usually on account siya. So, syempre, nagkakaroon tayo ng accounts receivable. Yung accounts receivable, syempre, kokolektahin natin yung cash dun sa mga binentahan natin on account. So, magkakaroon ka uli ng cash. Pag may cash ka na uli, makakabili ka na uli ng inventory, makakabagbenta ka na uli, tapos magkokolekt ka ng receivable, and then magiging cash uli siya, and the operating cycle goes forward and goes forward. Baka nalilito lang kayo dun sa word na credit sales. Pagka sinabi natin credit sales, sales on account. Ibig sabihin, isa siyang accounts receivable transaction. Kung babalikan natin sa service companies, yun yung mga service rendered on account na ang entry natin ay debit accounts receivable, credit service revenue. So, ganun lang din dito. No? Pag nagbebenta tayo ng produkto, pwede rin kasing on account. Ngayon, let's make the operating cycle much more simpler. It looks like this, okay? So, thank you to principlesofaccounting.com for this very simple diagram. Okay, so it starts with cash. The company has cash. They will have an inventory from a purchase transaction, and then they will have a sales, or they will undergo a sales transaction on account. So there's an accounts receivable, and then the accounts receivable will be collected by the company, and then the company has cash again, and the cycle goes forward and goes forward again. Okay? May cash ang company, makakabili, pagkabili, ibebenta. Pag nakolekta ng receivable, pwede na uling bumili. And it goes and goes and goes and goes. Okay, so before we formally discuss anything about selling or purchasing, we need to understand first what is a gross invoice price. In accounting for merchandising operations, we always record the gross invoice price in the books. Merchandises are always quoted in the original price called list price. So, ang una kasi yung pag-uusapan talaga dyan kung kanino ka man bibili ng merchandise. Pero sa ano na to on a company setup, hindi to yung personal transactions natin, okay? Usually, you will be given what you call a list price. This is the original price. However, there will be deductions that will lure the buyer and encourage the buyer to sell to buy more merchandise. Okay? Kaya bibigyan siya ng tinatawag nating trade discounts. Okay? Now, list price, pabawasan natin ang discount na binigay ni seller kay buyer, magkakaroon tayo ng tinatawag nating gross invoice price. Pag nagre-record tayo ng sales or purchase transaction, hindi po natin nire-record ang list price. Hindi rin po natin nire-record ang trade discounts. Ang nire-record po natin ay gross invoice price. Okay, so let's have an example. So we have problems 1 and 2. Number 1 is find the amount that will be recorded in the books of Jimin Trading regarding their purchase of merchandise listed as 6,000 pesos and is given a trade discount of 20%. Doon naman sa pangalawa, the list price is 7,000 and then may chain discounts na 30 and 25%. So I have prepared a video lesson way back. Gagamitin lang uli natin dito to discuss how to get gross invoice price. Let's listen to myself, Sir Chua. Okay, so let's try this two problems first. The first one is, so this is about gross invoice price. So number 1, find the amount that will be recorded in the books of Jimin Trading regarding their purchase of merchandise listed as 6,000 and is given a trade discount of 20%. So recalling the formula that was discussed in the theory, we have list price less trade discount. That is your gross invoice price. Okay? So using this formula for number 1, the list price is 6,000 and then the trade discount is, you will be multiplying 6,000 by 20%. So that is 6,000 times 0.2, which gives you 1,200. So that came from 6,000 times 20%. Okay? So you just deduct the list price to the trade discount. So 6,000 minus 1,200 gives you a gross invoice price of 4,800. Okay? Another approach that you can do is you just multiply 6,000 to the complement percentage of 20%. So 100 minus 20, that's 80%. Okay? So what you will do is, to get this one, you can also do 6,000 times 80%. Automatically, that is your gross invoice price of 4,800. Okay? And then for number 2, find the amount that will be recorded in the books of Jimin Trading regarding their purchase of merchandise listed as 7,000 and is given chain discounts of 30% and 25%. So in dealing with chain discounts, you will first apply the 30% discount and then apply the next 25% discount. Okay? So this is what you will do. Okay? List price would be 7,000 minus trade discount of 7,000 times 30%. So 7,000 times 0.3 is 2,100, and then this is your first gross invoice price. So 7,000 minus 2,100 gives you 4,900. However, we are still subject to 25% discount. So you multiply again another trade discount, 4,900, so you will be using this one, times 25%. Okay? So 4,900 times 0.25 gives you 1,200 25. Okay? And then you deduct both, so this will be your final gross invoice price. So, 4,900 minus 1,225 gives you 3,675. Now, to make it easy, you can also do this approach. So what you can do is 7,000, multiply it by the complement of 30%, which is 70%, and then you again multiply it to the complement of 25%, which is 75%. So let's try. 7,000 times 0.7 times 0.75 gives you 3,675. Okay, so these are our problems for the gross invoice price. Okay, I hope you understand Sir Chua on that. Okay, so let's move forward. Let's talk about a sales transaction. In a sales transaction, the legal ownership of the goods is transferred from the seller of the goods to the buyer of the merchandise. This is technically transfer of legal ownership. So when we say sales transaction, when someone buys merchandise, the legal ownership is transferred. And remember, when the legal ownership is transferred, that is transferred from the seller to the buyer of the merchandise. When you purchased a flat screen television from an appliance center, the appliance center first had the ownership of the television when they bought it from the supplier. So at that point pa lang, si supplier muna ang may-ari, binili ni appliance center sa kanila na transfer ang ownership kay appliance center. And now that you are ready to buy that television, the appliance center then sells you the television and transfer the ownership to you in the sales transaction. So kapag ka nabili mo na yung flat screen television at nabayaran mo na, the legal ownership of the goods is transferred from the seller, which is the appliance center, to you, the buyer, the consumer, di ba? Okay. So, always remember sa sales transaction, revenue is earned each time a sale is made. Kumbaga po, sa merchandising operations, kumikita tayo kapag ka nakakabenta tayo. Sales revenue is our main revenue producing activity. Sales can be accepted in cash or account. Yun yung sinabi ko sa inyo kanina. Pwedeng debit cash kung cash ang na-receive ng company sa pagbebenta nila. Pwede rin namang debit accounts receivable kung on account ang transaction. When goods are sold on account, the terms of payment must be specified on the invoice. Teka, hinay-hinay tayo dun sa word na invoice. Paano po ba yung invoice na yan? Yung invoice po, yun po yung naglalaman ng details of sale. Ang tawag po doon sales invoice. Kumbaga, pag bumili ang buyer sa supplier ng merchandise, bibigyan siya ng sales invoice. Nandun po lahat ng detalye ng kailangan niyang bayaran, kailan yung due date, meron po bang cash discounts na involve, yung mga ganon. Okay? So, this term of payment is called the credit term. Ngayon, ano yung mga nakikita nyo number sa harapan nyo na parang fraction pero parang hindi naman? 2 over 10, n over 30, 2 over 15, 5 over 10, n over 60, 5 over 10, n over EOM. Parang medyo codes ba ito? Okay, so let's discuss. When sales are sold on account, ang ginagawa po natin, binibigyan natin si seller ng terms, si buyer. Binibigyan natin si buyer ng terms of payment. So, for example, ang binigay na terms of payment dun sa credit term, hindi ka pa bayad sa akin, buyer ha, ang bibigay ko sa iyo yung terms 2 over 10 and over 30. Ibig sabihin, bibigyan kita ng 2% discount pag nagbayad ka sa akin within 10 days. Pero, ang deadline ng payment mo sa akin dun sa mismong binili mo ay 30 days. Okay? 2% discount when you paid within 10 days, but the deadline of payment for the whole amount of the merchandise without discount is 30 days. So, paano naman po itong 2 over 15, 5 over 10, and over 60? Bibigyan ka ni seller, si buyer ay bibigyan ni seller ng 2% discount if paid within 15 days, 5% discount if paid within 10 days. So makikita mo na mas malaki ang discount na ibibigay sa'yo pag mas maaga ka nagbayad. Tingnan mo, pag within 10 days ka nagbayad, 5 days 5% ang ibibigay sa yung discount. Pero pag within 15 days na, ibig sabihin yung 11th day to 15th day, 2% na lang kasi mas late na. But the whole merchandise, ang deadline for payment is 60 days. Meron din naman tayong 5/10 N over EOM. Pag sinabi namang 5/10 N over EOM, sige nga, kayo mag-isip. Okay, very good. Okay, so 5% discount if paid within 10 days, but the deadline of payment is at the end of month. Yun po yung EOM. Ito pong tatlong to ay example lang ha. Pwede pong iba-ibahin yan ng merchandising company. Depende sa mapag-uusapan nila ni buyer. Ito po yung mga examples lang. So, sir, pwede po ba yung 3/15? N over 60? Pwede po ba yung 1/10? N over 15? Pwede po. Depende po sa pag-uusapan ni buyer at ni seller, or pwede ring base sa company policy ni seller. Sales, whether in cash or on account, are sometimes returned to the seller because of wrong color, wrong size, inferior quality, and many other reasons. Nagkakaroon po tayo minsan ng ganyan, hindi maiiwasan, no? Binabalik natin kay seller kasi hindi tayo satisfied. Mali yung na-deliver na color, mali yung na-deliver na size, o di kaya medyo may konting sira, o di po kaya medyo kupas na. Okay? So gagamit po tayo ng sa seller, on a seller's perspective, ang tawag po dyan ay sales returns and allowances. Sales returns are merchandise returned to the seller, which implies a cancellation of sale. Ano na nga, tawag dito, pagka parang ano yan medyo si buyer, syempre medyo nairita, di ba? Di babalik siya ngayon kay seller. Seller, medyo mali yung naibigay mo sa aking products, di babalik mo. So, ang mangyayari, it is a cancellation of sale. Ay babalik mo yung binayad ni buyer. The seller will return the payment made of the buyer because the sales transaction or the sale transaction is canceled. Meron din naman tayong sales allowances which are granted to customers if customers keep the merchandise although unsatisfied with what they bought. Seller, yung naibigay mo sa akin medyo kupas na Baka pwedeng bawasan na lang natin yung babayaran ko sa'yo. O hindi kaya, kung nakapagbayad na si buyer, seller, baka naman pwedeng balik mo sa akin ng konti yung binayad ko. Kunyari, kung 10,000 lahat yun, baka pwedeng 8,000 na lang, balik mo sa akin kahit 2,000. Pwede rin naman yun, okay? So, hindi canceled yung buong sales transaction, nagkaroon lang ng allowances, okay? So, ang gagamitin po natin sa mga ganyan transaction ay sales, returns, and allowances to record these types of transactions. Okay, so meron po tayong example problem dealt with, the following transactions were dealt with by Lisa Merchandising. So we have transactions April 1, April 2, April 5, and April 11. And Sir Chua has a video on that. Let's watch myself. Okay, so we now proceed to your problem regarding sales transactions. Okay. So the following transactions were dealt with by Lisa Merchandising. So we will be doing journal entries on how to properly record sales transactions of a merchandise. Okay. So on April 1, sold merchandise to Jenny Company with a price of 12,000 cash on delivery. So immediately after the merchandise has been delivered to the customer, which is Jenny, cash has already been received by Lisa Merchandising. Okay, so we will do a simple entry that will record the receipt of cash and recording a sales revenue or sales on the side of Lisa Merchandising. So your entry would be April 1, debit cash for the amount of the selling price of the merchandise, which is 12,000, and then credit sales revenue or simply sales. That is another 12,000. Okay? We proceed with April 2. Sold merchandise to Rosé Company with a price of 8,000 with terms 2/10 and over 30. Earlier, we have discussed this type of credit term. So again, let's review. 2% discount will be given if the customer pays us within 10 days, but the deadline of payment is in 30 days. Okay? And since the customer is not yet paying the merchandise, this will be recorded to accounts receivable. So, debit, accounts receivable, and then we put the name of the customer because this will be recorded in the subsidiary ledger later. Okay? Rosé Company. This is for 8,000. And then credit sales revenue to record sales for another 8,000. Okay. Next, on April 5, Jenny returned 3,000 worth of defective merchandise and in which cash refund was granted. So what happened is that our customer in April 1 was not happy with the merchandise, which is worth 3,000 because some of them were defective. So we will be recording an entry that would give back the cash to the customer. And this is the time that we will be using the account title Sales Returns and Allowances. Okay? So you debit sales returns and allowances for the amount of merchandise that was returned, 3,000, and then credit cash, 3,000. So if you will ask what happened with the sales revenue as regards to Jenny Company as our customer. So sales of 12,000, however, Jenny returned 3,000, so our sales revenue as far as Jenny is concerned is only 9,000. And the amount of cash that we also received from Jenny is also 9,000. Okay? And then lastly, 11, Rosé Company paid their account balance. Let's go back to what has happened on April 2. Okay? So the terms is 2/10 and over 30. Now let's check the deadline for the 2% discount. Okay? If this is April 2, then we add 10 days. The deadline is on April 12. And then Rosé was able to pay on the 11th day of the month. So 2 plus 10 is 12, 11 days, so we can grant her the discount. Okay? So what we will do is to compute first for the cash discount that will be given to Rosé. Okay, so if the sales revenue is 8,000, we multiply, we compute first for the cash discount. So the cash discount would be 8,000 times 2% discount. Okay, so 8,000 times 0.02, this is 160. So we will give Rosé 160 pesos worth of discount. This will be recorded as a sales discount. So, your entry in the receipt of cash upon collection of the account receivable from Rosé would be like this. Debit cash for the amount that you will receive minus the discount. So, if the sales transaction or the selling price is 8,000 minus 160, then you will only receive 7,840. And then, you record the sales discount. So, debit sales discount for 160. And then, we will be crediting accounts receivable so that we will be erasing that effect to Rosé Company. So, credit accounts receivable Rosé Company for the whole 8,000. So that's how we record transactions under sales transactions. Okay, I hope you understand how it was discussed with you. Let's continue with purchases. So, kanina, ang pinag-usapan natin ay point of view ng company na nagbebenta. Ngayon naman, ang pag-uusapan natin ay point of view ng company na syempre, wala naman silang ibebenta kung hindi sila bibili. So, ang pag-uusapan naman natin is purchase transaction. Purchases. The cash collected by the merchandising entity will then be used to purchase goods that will be selling by the firm. Yung sentence na yan yung tinatawag nating operating cycle. Kasi syempre, di ba, meron na silang cash o pwede nila uling gamitin to purchase merchandise. Merchandising entities need to purchase inventory in order to be able to sell and gain profit. We can say that purchases are also sales transactions. However, the viewpoint here is that the company that accounts for the transaction will be the buyer of the merchandise. Totoo naman po yun. Ang isang purchase transaction ay sales transaction din. Kasi bibili sila eh. Yun nga lang, ang point of view dito sa purchases, si company na ngayon ang buyer. Okay? Now, so let's try this problem. So this is also from Lisa Merchandising, and we have transactions on May 1, May 2, May 7, and May 10. So for the explanation, let's watch myself. And now we're ready to prepare journal entries for purchases transaction. So purchase transaction. So our point of view today is that we are the buyer of the merchandise. Okay, the following transactions were dealt with by Lisa Merchandising. Okay, May 1, purchased merchandise from M Company amounting to 15,000 cash on delivery. So before anything else, what we will be using in these journal entries are the periodic system of inventory as opposed to the perpetual system of inventory. So in the periodic system of inventory, inventory counts are only done periodically. So we will be using the account title purchases rather than debiting it directly to merchandise inventory. Okay, so on May 1, purchased merchandise from M Company amounting to 15,000 cash on delivery. Okay, so in this type of problem, we are the buyer here, so we are the one to pay the cashier. So your transaction on May 1 would be debit purchases for the amount of the purchase transaction you have, which is 15,000, and then credit cash for 15,000. Much like how you purchase an asset, okay? So you just debit purchases and then credit cash. Okay. Next is May 2, purchased merchandise to Kim Company. So Kim Company is the seller here, amounting to 6,000. Terms 5/10 and over EOM. So this is a bit familiar again to you. When we have this credit term, it means that we are not yet paying, or a cash transaction is not yet paying. Okay, so on May 2, your entry would still be debit purchases for the amount of your purchase, which is 6,000, and then credit accounts payable. And then rewrite again the name of the seller for us to be able to record it later in the subsidiary ledgers. So this is Kim Company, amounting to 6,000. Okay, so we continue with the May 7 transaction. Lisa returned 3,000 worth of merchandise to M Company. Cash refund was granted. So earlier in sales transactions, we were able to use the account sales returns and allowances. Now, the perspective of the buyer, and that Lisa Merchandising is our buyer, we'll be receiving cash because we were granted of a cash refund. So debit cash for the amount of merchandise returned to M Company, 3,000, and then credit purchase, returns, and allowances. So we will be using this account title in order for us to signify that this is the purchase, returns, and allowance. Okay? And then on May 10, Lisa paid their account balance to Kim Company. Now, looking at this again, at Kim Company, the deadline of payment is within 10 days for Lisa to get 5% discount. So 5 over 10 and over EOM. So let's add again 10 days to this transaction, which is on May 12. However, we paid already, or Lisa, the company, paid already on May 10. So they will be granted of the cash discount of 5%. Okay? So let's compute again for the cash discount. The cash discount would be the amount of 6,000, this one, multiplied by 5%. Okay? So let's multiply 6,000 times 5%. That gives you 300. Okay? So this will be your purchase discount. So your entry, since you will be paying your account payable to Kim Company, debit accounts payable Kim Company for the whole amount of 6,000, credit cash because you were granted of a cash discount. 6,000 minus 300, our cash payment will only be 5,700. And then record the discount as purchase discount for 300. So these are our transactions and journal entries for purchases. Okay, I hope you understand how to record purchase transactions. And then we also have another problem here. Gab Company has gross sales of 400,000 and then meron tayong sales discounts and sales returns and allowances, and then purchases worth 200,000 and then purchase discount and purchase returns and allowances. So let's watch again Sir Chua for the discussion of this problem. So now we will be computing for the amounts of sales and purchases that will be presented later in the income statement. So later we'll be preparing an income statement, but for now, let's work on some problems which relate sales and purchases. Gab Company has gross sales of 400,000, sales discounts of 10,000, and sales returns and allowances of 12,000. Also, Gab has purchased worth 200,000 inventory, in which purchase discount is 8,000 and purchase returns and allowances is 5,000. Compute for the net sales and net purchases. Okay, so let's first compute for the net sales. In computing for net sales, we start with the gross amount of sales. So, gross sales. Gross sales amounted to 400,000. Then, we will deduct all of our contra sales accounts, which are two. We have your sales discount, which amounts to 10,000. And we also deduct your sales returns and allowances, which is 12,000. Okay? So you deduct the two. So we have 400,000 minus 10,000 minus 12,000, which gives us 378,000. And this is the amount of your net sales. Okay? So always remember that these two are your contra sales accounts. Let's now move on to net purchases. In net purchases, so we have here net purchases. And net purchases, it works the same way as how we do it in cash. So we have gross purchases amounting to 200,000 less purchase discount. The purchase discount that was granted to the company is 8,000. And then we also deduct purchase returns and allowances of 5,000. So, we compute for that again. 200,000 minus 8,000 minus 5,000 gives us 187,000, and that is your net purchases. Okay? So that is the amount of net sales and net purchases. And then this one, always remember, this is your contra purchases account. Okay, I hope you understand our lesson today. So our next lesson would be about transportation. There are sometimes the buyer is in Manila and then the seller is in Cebu or vice versa. So who owns the goods kapag nasira, nawasak or lumubog yung barko na sinasakyan ng merchandise, yung mga ganun tipo. Okay, so transportation ang next nating lesson na pag-uusapan, and this is still in relation to our lesson on merchandising operations. This is Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH. Thank you and have a great day.